Scotty Boy was ready for war today on CNN. That's because this pro-illegal Latina Democrat kept promoting lie after lie after lie about the Medicaid cuts. But Scott calls her out exactly for what she was lying about, so much so that she doesn't even address the point that he made to her that put her in a corner. Look at that face. He's like, when he makes that face, it's over. It's itsSeanDaniel here, but before we get to Miss Pro Illegal, listen to this guy over here who ended up co-writing that book with Jake Tapper about, wow, we finally figured out Biden's decline. He tries to try Scott Jennings too. Bad idea.
I want to flash back to the Senate floor briefly as we kind of talk about what Tillis is doing here, because you heard him tell Jake there, right, that he doesn't think the politics of this are going to work for Republicans. And you can almost see the Democratic campaign ads being written from this speech on the floor. Watch.
So what do I tell 663,000 people in 2 years or 3 years when President Trump breaks his promise by pushing them off of Medicaid because the funding's not there? It is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office.
I mean, Scott Jennings, a swing state senator, with that message for the agenda for your party.
I know, I think he's wrong. And virtually every Republican thinks he's wrong. There's nothing politically devastating about trying to bar 1.4 million illegal aliens from getting welfare. There's nothing politically devastating about encouraging 4.8 million people who choose not to work to try to work a little in order to get government benefits. And they did in the Senate install a $50 billion fund for rural hospitals, which was something he also raised concerns about. So I don't agree with his political analysis, nor does virtually every other Republican who helped to craft and ultimately pass this bill. And I think Republicans ought to lean into these things. Work requirements are good. Encouraging work instead of welfare is a good thing, and it will work in campaigns.
Is there anything about what he just said that does not make sense, especially from a conservative point of view? But we can guess who's going to have an issue with that, can't we?
Congressman, you run for re-election every 2 years. Obviously, Democrats have a shot to retake the House. Does this bill make it easier?
I think it does. I think that's unfortunate, but I think it does. And to the points that you just heard a moment ago, I mean, I think there's a lot of issues that will prove themselves. For example, if hospitals are shutting down, if OBGYN units are disappearing from hospitals, it really doesn't matter what the Republicans think right now. The people who live near those hospitals and can't go there anymore, they're going to be upset about it. The people who've been promised tax breaks and aren't going to get them, or find out that they got something but it's only for 3 years and it's not that much, they're going to be angry and they're going to turn on the Republicans, and rightly so.
There was some creative timing in this bill.
Well, I was just going to say, like, you say Republicans should lean in, but most of these Medicaid cuts don't come until after the midterms. Why is that?
Well, I mean, states run the Medicaid program. I do think it's reasonable to give them time to prepare to enact changes to the program. But it doesn't matter because Democrats are obviously going to go all in on this hysteria campaign. So if you're running a Republican campaign out there, you're going to have to debate the issue. And I'm telling you as a debating point, if Democrats want to run on giving Medicaid to illegal aliens and people who won't work or choose not to work, Republicans have a counter message that will work if they are willing to courageously defend it.
I would just say that it's not Democrats versus Republicans in so much as it is people who will tell their stories. And I think that is where Republicans in this particular case are going to have some trouble, because when you talk about illegal aliens or you talk about people who won't work, all you have to do then is talk to a mother who is working 2 jobs and then now has to try and do this paperwork twice a month to get the bare minimum for herself and her family. That is going to cause some problems, I think, for Republicans a little bit down the line. People need health care in this country. It is what many people believe to be a human right. And so I think that is going to really cause Republicans some difficulty.
Notice how she said people deserve health care. You know what that means. People include illegals, but she doesn't want to frame it that way. You know that's what she means. And you see how she does not address the point that Scott points out about giving free health care to illegals. They won't touch that. They won't touch that. They try to spin it to something else about losing Medicaid benefits, even though we've already talked about this a bunch of times, and Scott re-brought it up, that it's for people who can work but are not willing to work. They're going to lose the Medicaid benefits, so they need to go to work. There was too many people were getting Medicaid benefits just by staying at home by their own accord, not because of a health issue, not because of something else. But don't you think that's what she means when she says people deserve health care? Because she did not address the illegal point that Scott made.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, you're putting your Republican colleagues of mine in the position of having to declare people to be deadbeats at the time when they are working 2 jobs. They are doing everything they can to make ends meet. And you guys are going to take the rug out from under them. And they're not going to be happy. They're going to be rightly, I think, upset about it.
You guys are conflating 2 populations, and it's not my conjecture. Just ask the CBO. Everybody likes to cite the CBO. The CBO's
Except
own
you,
numbers.
typically.
4.8 million. Well, I'm going to cite them because they tend to be popular, at least in here. 4.8 million people on Medicaid who choose not to work. That's not my going out and counting. That's the CBO. 1.4
I mean, but
million
Scott, have
illegal
you ever?
aliens.
There are so many.
There is a
people,
population
hold
that
on.
chooses not to work that
But
maybe should try a little.
how
And
many
the people
of-
you cite are not going to lose their
Scott,
benefits. I
hold
don't
on.
believe.
How many of those people, though, are people who actually can't be working, whose families are going to have to cover the cost of their health care if they don't get Medicaid, right? Like people who are addicted to substances. I mean, it goes beyond just that exact. It's characterizing that population as just people who've decided not to work and are trying to get government health care. It doesn't necessarily describe the entire population accurately.
And just as a bit of political analysis, I mean, this is really what I'm trying to do here, is that it is much easier to run on a message of someone took something away from you than it is to say, no, actually, we didn't take it away. Certain populations are undeserving. Certain populations, aren't actually there to get it. And so what I would say probably is that you are facing a real issue where Republicans are becoming the party of taking things away, of cutting things,
Can I
cutting
debate this?
things.
Because look, I hear your analysis, and it's a valid debating point. My rebuttal to that would be Democrats have become the party of exploding government benefit programs during COVID, vastly expanding Medicaid beyond what it was ever intended to do, and then saying, gee whiz, now people are trying to take things away.
Do you think people like healthcare, though? Do you think people like healthcare? Do you think people
they like healthcare. I don't think they like the system we live under, which is not a Republican system. It's
by the way,
Obamacare, which exploded premiums and has vastly expanded the welfare state.
There is no question. The one bipartisan thing that people will agree with is that in this country, healthcare is a hot mess and it's a nightmare. And ask anyone who has ever tried to do it either through private insurance or through Obamacare.
Just look at the reaction to what Luigi Mangione did.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
In public to get a sense
but what
of
I'm
that.
saying is most people do believe that there should be a basic ability to go to a hospital and get some care.
I agree, but I think most people also believe that people should not be able to sit and do nothing and receive government benefits, or be in the country illegally and receive government benefits. An attempt to work is a good thing. And the Republican ethos is encouraging work. The Democratic ethos is encouraging government dependence.
I'm not debating what the Democrats are or are not. I'm just saying that because you're the party in power and you just pass legislation, that is going to be how people are.
I'm going to give the.
Oh, Scotty boy. Scotty boy was cooking. Go ahead, comment Karen down below if you think she's a Karen and you think she's dumb and she's way out of touch with what's really going on and what voters like me and you really think. Her point doesn't make any sense about voters turning against the Republicans because the Republicans passed this bill and people are going to lose their Medicaid. Because the only reason people would have a bad view about this bill and what it does to Medicaid and what it does to people that aren't even them, doesn't even affect them, the only reason they would have a tainted view of that is because of these liars on CNN who continue to lie and say everyone's going to lose their Medicaid. This woman, is one of the reasons people might have a bad view of the Medicaid cuts, which are all a lie. And she's wrong because most Americans, like the majority who voted for Trump, were sick of the government giving out money to not only a bunch of different citizens, but illegals. We were sick of that stuff, and we hate seeing the government waste and spend money. Now you could say how much of the big beautiful bill is doing that? That's a good point. But most Americans, I would argue, especially when you talk to a lot of people, obviously there's a ton of libs, But if you talk to a lot of people, they're going to be like, yeah, I don't think that many people should be getting this many benefits. I pay taxes, what, so I can take care of the guy who's addicted to drugs and stays at home and he can get his health care? I don't think many people would agree with that. I wouldn't. I don't want to pay taxes for all these people with all these problems and cover their issues. That's the European mindset. That's the super liberal mindset of we take care of everyone by our Social Security and make sure everyone's taken care of. People don't like paying taxes. People don't like covering for other people, especially illegals. Now, how's this Democrat going to spice it up against our man Scotty Boy?
I'm going to give the congressman the last word.
Just real 2 quick points. You said 4 million. I mean, the number that's expected to be bounced could be up to 17 million.
That's totally.
Well, even if it's wrong, let's say it's only like 12 million. That's still a big problem for Republicans. And the other problem too is even if you're talking about they don't want to have people on the rolls that aren't working, that works fine as long as it's somebody else. When it's actually them that are getting bounced off the rolls and they're like, I got to stay home because dad's got Alzheimer's or whatever, they don't want to hear that. They want their health care coverage. They want their Medicaid coverage.
All right. Well, clearly we're going to have a lot to talk about in this midterm election cycle because, come back.
She should have let Scott have a chance to respond to that, but I understand they run out of time. Because this guy so confidently and condescendingly, he makes some good points about how voters might change. They might be Republican, but then they get cut off their Medicaid because they're staying at home. They might be pissed. But he also sounds kind of condescending to me about, well, Republicans, all these millions of people that are going to be cut off. And he will not address the fact that they were for giving health care to illegals. None of them will touch that. It's Sean Daniel here, and if you want to see another Scott Jennings takedown video where he has to deal with this.
Am I mistaken by that? That was the greatest trade deal of all time, Scotty Boy? Do you not remember that? Do we not remember?
If you want to see that, check out that video right here, and I'll see you in the next one.